Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. I hope you all are doing well. This is a new kind of series that we're going to start on the channel and it is going to be called In Other News, and it's actually in light of the entire managerial situation and managerial merry-go-round. I thought we'd sit down and we'd just talk about some other things regarding Everton Football Club at the moment and some other news that's been floating about over the last sort of couple of days or so, because it's been very sort of manager heavy on the channel in the last, 3 weeks. I think it's been 4 weeks since Carlo Ancelotti left Everton Football Club today. It's still looking like Rafa Benitez could become the new Everton manager. Nothing is confirmed, nothing has been announced, but it looks like Rafa Benitez is the only sort of name in the conversation now. And you know, if some journalists are led to be believed, that announcement will be imminent, but we still haven't had it yet. And we've sat down, you know, day in, day out, and we've spoken about Rafa Benitez and what he could bring to Everton Football Club and whether or not he'd be a success and whether or not it's a good move. So I thought, you know what, we'll sit down for once and we'll talk about some other things. We'll talk about James Rodriguez, who's been heavily linked with a move to AC Milan over the last couple of days or so, which has been sort of kind of overlooked, hasn't it? You know, a lot of people have read the rumours and sort of gone, oh yeah, no surprise there, where's the manager, who's coming in, who we signing? Whereas if, you know, Carlo Ancelotti was still at the football club, if we weren't 4 weeks deep into a managerial search and it wasn't Rafa Benitez who was rumoured to become the next Everton manager, I feel like the James Rodriguez rumours would get a lot more traction and they'd sort of get a lot more attention, whereas now, because of everything else that's going on, they've sort of just been pushed to the side a little bit. So we'll mention those and we'll talk about those in today's video. We're also going to talk about Josh King. He has come out and spoken about Carlo Ancelotti. He's had some words to say on his ex-manager, and we're also going to talk about Luca Dean and Jordan Pickford as well. So before we get into any of that, if you like the idea of the new series, if you like the idea of the new sort of like I said, video, then please do hit that thumbs up button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Flying towards 4,600 subscribers now, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it would mean a great deal to me. We're going to try and do these videos sort of often. You know, when any information comes out or any news comes out, we'll sit down and we'll chat about it. It's basically, if you've been you know, a subscriber of the channel for a long time, we used to do a weekly news roundup, which is where we'd sit down every Friday and we talk about the latest Everton news. We stopped doing those because we started to do more daily streams and it got to a Friday and there wasn't really much to talk about. But obviously, like I said, in light of the whole managerial situation and a lot of the videos on the channel being very heavily, you know, sort of discussing the management stuff and who's going to be the next Everton manager and whether or not they'll work and this name and that name and this, that and the other, I thought we'd bring it back. I thought that the name of the series was apt, In Other News, because it is in other news, let's be honest, because everything is sort of being focused on the manager stuff at the moment, and I thought we'd just sit down and talk about some other Everton bits of information that you might want to you know, find out or listen to or hear me chat about and give my opinions about. So anyway, let's get straight into it. The first bit of news and information is regarding former Everton player Josh King. What a mad transfer that was for Everton Football Club. I think we'll look back in years to come, whether it be 3, 4, 5 years to come, and we'll sit there and say, remember when Josh King played for Everton Football Club? Remember when Everton signed Josh King in January on what was effectively a glorified loan? We brought him in for 6 months, we paid very little for him, and there was an option to extend that contract at the end of the 6 months if he done any good. He didn't really get much game time at all, and then ultimately he's left in the summer. I think he's actually due to be released tomorrow or the day after, you know, the end of June, when the contracts officially expire. The club have already announced that he will be leaving as well. So what a crazy sort of turbulent time that was of Josh King as an Everton player. Josh King has come out and spoken about his former manager Carlo Ancelotti and specifically stated that Carlo Ancelotti had lied to him. So let's get straight into those. This is according to Dag Bladet, who again or a publication who Josh King obviously has been speaking to. He has said that do not trust coaches who promise you things and say you will get the chance that you will start. He lied to me, but there are not many honest people who work in football. I had no relationship with Carlo Ancelotti. He also then went on to say, I do not regret that I went to Everton. I did not get the chance, not a single start. Had I started and not performed, I would have understood it. I was told that I would get to play, but it was not delivered. So Josh King, not holding back there with his his thoughts on Carlo Ancelotti and his thoughts on his time at Everton Football Club. And I feel like that quote there and that interview is something that we sort of expected from Josh King. Obviously, like I said, it was a mad transfer for the football club coming on in January. Obviously, deadline day literally was announced after the deadline had been broken past 12 o'clock. I remember sitting downstairs and doing a video announcing Josh King as an Everton player at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and talking about how exciting of a transfer he could be. Scores goals in the Premier League before, had a really good record at Bournemouth. Big, strong, physical, fast footballer, can score goals, can play up front, can play off the wing. He was really, it was a breath of fresh air at the time in which we signed him, because we all thought Josh King was going to allow us the opportunity for Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin to maybe have some games where they don't start or they're not involved whatsoever, because we were really voiding options at that point. Anthony Gordon, I think, had gone out on loan earlier on in the day, because we sort of were thinking that Josh King was going to come in. Obviously, Moise Kean had gone out on loan in the summer, and we didn't really have any backup option. And we were in January. I remember getting to January, and obviously we'd had the fantastic start to the season. We dipped a little bit in November, and we found a little bit of form in December again when fans were back in the stadium. But we all sort of knew getting into January, we lost the first game of 2021 against West Ham, and we knew we needed to bring somebody in to provide that cover for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or provide that competition for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We knew how difficult it was going to be to do that in a January transfer window, and Josh King become a player that was available for very little money. I think it was even less than £1 million. It was going to be a contract that was, again, like I said, practically a glorified loan, and it was an opportunity for Josh King to come in and prove himself. And I feel like that the general thought and consensus around the move at that time was, this is a good move for Everton. We needed to bring somebody in. Obviously, we were heavily linked with Joshua Zirkzee early on in that transfer window. That fell through, and he ended up going to Parma. And Josh King just made sort of perfect sense. I remember earlier on in the day, in deadline day, when Joshua King was heavily rumoured with moving to Fulham, and everybody was sort of up in arms and fuming that we hadn't signed Joshua King. Imagine saying that now. We would have, 6 months ago, we'd have been fuming that we weren't signing him, and now he's had 6 months at Everton, or 4 or 5 months at Everton, not really done much, and now he's left. But I remember when he was heavily linked with the move to Fulham early on in the deadline day, and everybody was sort of up in arms about it. Obviously, he signed for Everton, like I said. I think there was a lot of sort of excitement about the move, or certainly a lot of, do you know what, this is a good move for Everton. It's a right contract. It's not a silly 2-3 year deal. He can come in, if he proves himself, he'll get an extension. If he's not good enough, then he'll move on. And ultimately, look, I think what Josh King is saying is probably quite accurate there. He wasn't given the opportunity to prove himself. Now, don't get me wrong, there was times when he come on the pitch as a substitute, or there was times when he was brought on in games, and he didn't really have much of an impact whatsoever. His touch was poor at times and let him down massively. He had a couple of chances, certainly late on in the season, when he come off the bench, and he had a couple of chances on the edge of the box or within the box to score goals, and he fluffed them. And he didn't look the sharpest. Let's be honest, he didn't look the sharpest. And the question was always on the minds of us Evertonians is, will Josh King ever get a start for Everton? He's been brought in to allow Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison to every now and then have a little bit of a rest, or come out for, a game or so, or even just, come out for 50-60 minutes and then sit on the bench and then come on, and only play half an hour of a game. And Josh King never ever got that. Even at times when Richarlison was injured and was unavailable to play, Carlo Ancelotti found a way around it without actually putting Josh King in. And even at times that Dominic Calvert-Lewin had picked up injuries and was unable to play. And I remember Dom picking up an injury towards the back end of the season. And we were all sort of sitting here going, right, nailed on, Josh King's going to start. Now this is Josh King's opportunity to come in and start for Everton and actually impress. And he wasn't even in the matchday squad the following game, never mind starting, he wasn't even in the matchday squad. And every time Carlo Ancelotti was asked about Josh King in his press conference, it was very much, he's a professional, he's training well, he will get his opportunity. It's nothing to do with the fact that he's not good enough, it's just the fact that we're waiting to put him in there. But let's be honest, Josh King's right, he never got that opportunity, he never ever got that chance. Coming on with 4 or 5 minutes to go at the end of games of football is a nonsense. You're never ever going to get the best of a player by doing that. You're never ever going to be able to see the potential of a new signing if you're only giving him the last 3 or 4 minutes of games. That's not how football works. We all wanted at one point, I remember West Brom, when we played West Brom, and I think I think Dom had played a couple of games in the last week or so, and we had a really important game. I can't remember what it was. He's obviously played in the he come back from injury after in the Liverpool game. He didn't start the derby, did he? And he come off the bench. Obviously, won us a penalty in that one, and then he was sort of still finding his way back into fitness. And you sort of looked at the West Brom game after the derby and thought, yeah, this is a fantastic opportunity for Josh King to get a start. You know, it's a team that, let's be honest, he should be able to turn up and you know, have a field day against in terms of West Brom, who were heavily struggling at that point and were looking like they were relegation bound. And he never ever got that chance, and that obviously was down to Carlo Ancelotti. Now, again, you might be sitting there saying, look, Josh King was never good enough. He didn't get his opportunity because he wasn't fit enough, or he didn't impress in training. And that was the conclusion that we all sort of come to, I think, last season. And, you know, I remember talking about it in the season review, and we mentioned Josh King briefly, and we said, look, maybe he just wasn't good enough. Maybe he just didn't impress Carlo Ancelotti in training, and maybe he just didn't do enough to get in this squad. But, again, it's quite telling when we brought a player in for a specific reason. In January, we brought him in very literally to allow Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison to have a little bit of a rest every now and then, and he wasn't able to do that job, and he wasn't able to do that role. Now, obviously, Josh King coming out in his comments there saying, listen, if I was given the chance and I underperformed, then I'd understand it. But I was given the chance and I didn't, and I started maybe 2, 3, 4 games and I didn't score a goal, or I didn't get any assists, or I was knackered after 20 minutes, then yeah, fine, I'd understand it. If I got the chance and I didn't perform, I'd get it. But I wasn't given the chance, and moreover than that, I was promised I'd be given the chance. You know, let's be honest, Josh King isn't the first person to be associated with Everton who Carlo Ancelotti has lied to. Join the line, Josh. There's a lot of us standing in it. You're probably about 40,522nd in the line. In fact, more than that. That's just the line at Goodison Park. There's more Evertonians that Carlo Ancelotti has lied to. That are on the way to Goodison Park. So you can join the back of the line in terms of people that Carlo Ancelotti has lied to in the last 12 months or so. But it's a really telling sort of interview, I think. It's a really telling statement for Josh King to come out and basically say, look, if I was given the chance and I underperformed or I failed, then that's fine, I'd accept that. But I was never given the opportunity, and I was promised I would be given the chance. And that's quite clear. Look, we know that's quite clear because Josh King, ultimately never got a start for Everton Football Club. I don't think he was given more than 25 minutes, half an hour. I think he come on at Leeds, and that was the most time he was given. And like I said, don't get me wrong, he didn't massively impress. It's not like he was coming off the bench and tearing it up every time he was on the pitch. He wasn't. There was some times where I looked at him and thought, you're criminally unfit. You're criminally unfit. He was looking tired after 5 or 10 minutes, but maybe that's because he wasn't getting the match fitness. Maybe that's because he wasn't given that opportunity to play and to, ultimately to play himself into match day fitness. We know, and we've seen with pretty much every single Everton player in the last 12 months or so, when players pick up injuries. We saw it with Alan. Alan's a massive example of it. Alan picked up an injury, a hamstring injury, was out for 2 or 3 months. It's been a groin injury. He picked up an injury, he was out for 2 or 3 months, and he come back, and it took him about 4 or 5 weeks, if not more, to be back to even remotely like his former self. And I remember the first couple of games back, he was absolutely atrocious, because it takes time to get back up to that match fitness. It takes time to get back to that level of Premier League football, and obviously Josh King was never able to get to that level because he wasn't given the opportunity. So a really, really interesting interview there by Josh King. Clearly not very happy with Carlo Ancelotti. As I've said, again, join the line, mate. There's a lot of us that aren't very happy with Carlo Ancelotti at the moment, but it's a mad signing, isn't it? It's a mad scenario. Like I said, we'll definitely be sitting here, I think, in years to come, remembering the time that Josh King played for Everton and never played really more than 5 minutes off the substitutes bench at the end of games, and then ultimately ended up leaving us in the following summer. Who knows what Josh King would have been able to do if he was given an opportunity? Who knows what he'd have been able to do if the promises that Carlo Ancelotti made to him were given, and maybe we'd have a player that we're looking at now going, okay, yeah, we've got Moise Kean coming back, we've got Dom, we've got Richarlison, and we've got Josh King, who massively impressed last season, from January onwards. But we haven't got that, and Josh King will leave Everton Football Club. And I highly doubt that even with the new manager coming in, we will re-sign him. But a very interesting interview there by Josh King, coming out and basically being honest and saying, look, and Carlo Ancelotti lied to me. If I was given a chance and I underperformed, I'd understand it, but I was never given an opportunity. And I understand him there. And again, I'm not saying that's the right or wrong decision, because when he come on the pitch, he didn't look great. But let's be honest, you know, how realistic is it to expect a player to come on the pitch in the last 4 or 5 minutes of a game and change the game and score a goal or score 2 goals? It's just not, it's not realistic whatsoever. He won a free kick against Manchester United, which ended up resulting in us getting a point in the last second, but that's probably as far as his Everton highlights go in his career, isn't it? So there you go, that is the latest on that situation. Josh King not very happy with Carlo Ancelotti. Now the biggest news story, I suppose, of the day is regarding James Rodriguez. Now we touched on this briefly yesterday, and over the last sort of 4 to 5 days or so, I've been reading information and I've been reading rumours surrounding James Rodriguez, and I've sort of just been going, yeah, do you know what, I'm not really interested. We haven't even got a manager. Pre-season starts on Monday. We still need a right back, a right winger, a left winger, a centre midfielder, maybe even a centre back, a centre forward, and we've got none of it. So James, you know, whatever's going on with James, put it to one side a minute and we'll talk about it a little bit later on. Well, anyway, this is in other news and this is the time to talk about it. So as we know, we mentioned it yesterday on the stream, James Rodriguez has been linked with a move away from Everton Football Club. His agent, Jorge Mendes, of course, you know, heavily linked with Nuno Espirito Santo, has been talking apparently to various different clubs around the possibility of James leaving Everton and joining one of those clubs. He said, or it is said, that he has made James Rodriguez available, which is very nice of him, considering James Rodriguez is signed and contracted to Everton Football Club, and Everton Football Club pay his wages, not Jorge Mendes, so it's not really your place to say that he's available, it's our place to say that he's available. But anyway, there you go. And the latest is coming from P. Sierra R, who is a journalist who was heavily involved in the James Rodriguez rumours last summer when he was linked with a move to Everton. I remember P. Sierra coming out and mentioning a lot of different bits of news and information that we actually spoke about on the channel. Some that, you know, ended up being right and some that ended up being wrong. But I remember him coming out and saying just before James signed for Everton that there's a little bit of a delay, and we don't know why it is, but there's a little bit of a delay. But he's, you know, it still looks likely that he'll sign, and everyone was up in arms, and we didn't know whether he'd sign or not. We didn't know whether he was going to fall through, and that ended up being true. And I remember myself saying, you know, there you go, P. Sierra was absolutely right with that one. So he has come out over the last couple of days ago or so, and he has said that AC Milan have made it known to Jorge Mendes that they are interested in James Rodriguez. Negotiations with Everton will start next week. So there you go. Jorge Mendes throwing his, you know, is throwing James' name out the hat there. Again, it says that AC Milan have made it known to Jorge Mendes that they are interested in James Rodriguez, and negotiations with Everton will start next week. Jorge Mendes apparently earlier on in the week, according to other sources, had basically, you know, offered James Rodriguez to Everton, and said that James himself was up for the move. He was happy to leave Everton and go and join AC Milan. There's a various number of other clubs that are interested in James as well, that apparently Jorge Mendes has offered him to, and there was even one rumour last week which said that there could potentially see a swap deal with James Rodriguez going to AC Milan and AC Milan striker Rafael Lau coming to Everton. Now obviously that's just paper talk at the moment, and that's just journalism talk, and there could be absolutely nothing in that, or there could be some substance in that. But what we do know is the latest on James Rodriguez is according to P. Sierra R, and he says that AC Milan have made it known to Jorge Mendes that they are interested in James Rodriguez, and negotiations with Everton will start next week. So there you go. Quite an interesting situation, isn't it? Really, a situation, like I said, that would, I feel like, would get a lot more sort of attention if Everton weren't 4 weeks deep into a managerial search and still not had a manager, with being, you know, less than a week away from pre-season. However, we are in that situation, and therefore any news and any information coming out about James Rodriguez has sort of been pushed to the side a little bit, rightly or wrongly. And it may turn out that we lose James Rodriguez this summer, which would be disappointing. Let's have it right, it would be disappointing. I know a lot of Evertonians are maybe a little bit frustrated with James Rodriguez, and I've been frustrated with him over the last 12 months or so. I get that he's missed big games. I get that he's been out at times that, you know, we would have liked him to have been available. I get that. The whole, you know, not being at the Wolves game to complete the lap of honour at the end of the season, and you know, obviously posting that picture of him, I'm going, you know, to Colombia before the Manchester City game. I get all of that, and I get the frustration around. And for me, in regards to him as a player and his season as a footballer, I think he had a very, very good season at Everton. I really, really do. His goal involvements, goals, assists, I think were good for the games that he played. 26 games played, which again, let's be honest, was probably more than we expected at the start of the season. We knew when he come in that James Rodriguez was a player coming in with big injury problems in the past, and a likelihood that he would encounter more injury issues last season, as he did constantly. He was injured, he was on and off in that sense. And like I said, the goals that he scored were for the most part very important for Everton. The one against Manchester United was massive. Obviously, he scored against Leicester as well, which was a big goal. Remember him scoring 2 against Brighton early on in the season. The one against West Brom on his opening game at Goodison Park. Obviously, the assist at Anfield was fantastic as well. So, in regards to James Rodriguez's season as a player, I think he had a very good season, in my opinion. I think he had a very good season for the games that he played, and like I said, the goal contributions that we got out of that, I think it was as expected, to be honest. And I don't think by any means he had a poor season. I think he was very good. It would be massively disappointing to see him go. It really, really would. But let's be honest, it also wouldn't be massively surprising at all. James Rodriguez is a player who, the minute that Carlo Ancelotti left Everton Football Club, I remember sitting here 3-4 weeks ago today, actually, on the 1st of June, when it was announced that Carlo Ancelotti was leaving, and I remember saying, right, that's it for James then. James Rodriguez will obviously leave because, he was only here for Carlo Ancelotti. He made that very clear that he wouldn't be at Everton without Carlo Ancelotti, and I just couldn't see him staying at Everton post Carlo Ancelotti either. Now, obviously, he'd come out since then and mentioned about staying at Everton Football Club and said that he'd be happy to stay in this, that and the other. But let's be honest, footballers say a lot of things, don't they? Footballers come out and mention that they're happy to stay somewhere, or they want to stay, or they love it where they are. And Carlo Ancelotti done exactly the same, didn't he? He loves it at Formby, apparently. He loves Crosby Beach. It's absolutely boss. He never wants to go. He never wants to leave. It suits his lifestyle. And then Real Madrid come calling, and he went, actually, do you know what? Crosby isn't that nice. The ice cream's not that good. There's not many nice grand places, and I'd rather go and live in Madrid. So see you later. I'm getting off. So if James Rodriguez is to do the same, let's be honest, it won't be massively surprising. And again, I don't think it's the biggest issue or worry at the moment in regards to Evertonians. I think Evertonians have sort of got this stance on James is what it is. If he stays, great. If he doesn't stay, whatever. We brought him in for a free, obviously, and hopefully we can get some money back on that deal. If we can get a swap deal for Rafael Lau, I think that would be absolutely unbelievable, even just in the sense of James is a 29-year-old, 30-year-old player who has suffered with a lot of injury issues, and whilst, performs whilst he's on the pitch, there's a lot of times that he won't be on the pitch throughout the course of a season because of that. Rafael Lau is a 19, 20, 21-year-old striker who's got a lot of potential, quick, fast, good in the air, scores goals, and it would just be a brilliant deal for Everton Football Club, in my opinion, even taking away the Carlo Ancelotti situation. But whether there's any truth in that or not is obviously a different question. There was only one rumour mentioning it, and every other rumour has just been strictly about, Jorge Mendes offering James Rodriguez to AC Milan. And there you go, the latest is from Pizziera. And once again, just before we go, he says AC Milan have made it known to Jorge Mendes that they are interested in James Rodriguez. Negotiations with Everton will start next week. So there you go. We'll have to see what happens with that one. We'll have the latest news on James Rodriguez live on the channel, so don't forget to join us as and when that breaks. But at the moment, James' future at Everton is very much up in the air and very much up in arms, and I'm sure that we'll hear and read a lot more of this once Everton have actually appointed the manager. And once that situation's out the way, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about James Rodriguez's future and whether or not he'll stay at the football club. It's also worth noting as well that if it is to be Rafa Benitez as the new Everton manager, James Rodriguez historically hasn't got the greatest relationship with Rafa Benitez from his time at Real Madrid, apparently, according to various different sources who have followed James Rodriguez's career. So maybe that'll have a telling point in whether or not he stays at Everton. But that is the latest on James Rodriguez. Apparently, AC Milan have let it known to Jorge Mendes that they are interested in James Rodriguez, and negotiations with Everton will start next week. We'll wait and see if that one's true, and we'll wait and see, where that situation goes to post now, obviously. So there you go. That's the latest on James Rodriguez. Next bit of information is that Everton have confirmed that Everton under-23s goalkeeper Nico Hansen has today joined Swansea City on a free transfer. Obviously, we wish Nico the very, very best of luck in his future. There's a whole load of players that will be leaving Everton Football Club over the next coming days or so. Players that obviously have ran out of contract, players that Everton have decided not to renew. Everton women have announced that there's a number of players that will be leaving the football club as well. So we wish the very, very best of luck to all of those players that will be leaving the football club, including obviously Nico Hansen, who has joined Swansea City on a free transfer. So best of luck to Nico and best of luck to everybody leaving Everton Football Club, and best of luck in your futures, and we hope you have a very, very successful future. Next bit of news, Leighton Baines. Nearly said Leighton Baines then. It's going back a while, isn't it? Luca Dean, unfortunately, was knocked out of Euro 2020 last night after France fell to a mad 3-all defeat then. Defeat on penalties to Switzerland. The game ended 3-all. Switzerland were 1-0 up in the game before France took it to them in the second half. It was a fantastic first half by Switzerland. Really, really good. France were struggling in the game. Couldn't really get a foothold. Weren't really working hard enough. They come out in the second half. Switzerland had a chance to double their lead to 2-0 and make it really difficult for France. The penalty was missed by Rodriguez. France then went up the other end, and within literally 2 or 3 minutes, Benzema had made it 1-1, and then straight away he'd made it 2-1. Paul Pogba then buried an absolute worldie to make it 3-1 before Switzerland made a heroic and let's be honest, quite fantastic comeback to get it to 3-2. And then 3-all with about 30 seconds to go in normal time. The game then went into extra time. There was no goals in extra time. It went to penalties, and Kylian Mbappe missed the vital penalty, which saw Switzerland progress into the next round of Euro 2020. So commiserations, obviously, to Luca Dean and the entire France squad. Hopefully, Luca Dean can rest up now. Obviously, he picked up that injury in France's game against Portugal a week or so ago. Hopefully he can rest up now and get his recovery in, get his recuperation in, and get back to Liverpool and start his pre-season with Everton in the coming weeks or so. I dare say he'll be allowed a little bit more time, not just because obviously he's been at the Euros, but to recover from that injury, and hopefully his recovery goes very well. So commiserations to France and to Luca Dean as well. What a game of football it was. What a day for football it was yesterday. But obviously it did mean, unfortunately, that our magic left back is out of Euro 2020. So commiserations to Luca Dean. Hopefully his recovery is going well, and I'm sure we'll see him back in an Everton shirt or in Everton gear some point soon. And the last bit of information is regarding Jordan Pickford. Manuel Neuer, German goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, absolute legend of football. Manuel Neuer has been talking about Jordan Pickford today. He was asked directly in his press conference before tonight's game between England and Germany. He was asked about Jordan Pickford. He was asked a question about Jordan being the only goalkeeper left in Euro 2022 have not conceded a goal, clean sheet in every one of England's games. Manuel Neuer went on to talk about Jordan Pickford being a very, very good goalkeeper. He said his distribution is something that Germany need to look out for, because it's certainly something that could give their defence an issue. He said he's a very solid goalkeeper, and he expects another good performance again on Tuesday, today, effectively, from Jordan Pickford. So very nice there to hear Manuel Neuer, who of course is an absolute legend of the game, and an absolute legend of football, coming out and speaking so highly about Jordan Pickford there. Again, Jordan's been in absolutely brilliant form for England, made 4, 5, 6 big saves in the tournament so far, and is the reason as to why England have managed to keep those clean sheets, and he's also the reason as to why he's the only goalkeeper who has yet to concede a goal in Euro 2020. Hopefully that record remains tonight. We have just had some breaking information just as we were recording the video. This is coming from The Athletic, and they have said that The Athletic understands that Everton striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin will not be included in England's squad for the game against Germany. I don't know why Gareth Southgate has wasted the time. He may as well have just told Dom to stay at home, rest up, and basically get that rest and watch from home, because to me it's absolutely baffling that Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't had more game time in the Euros anyway, but it's even more baffling that he's been getting left out of games like this when he's very clearly, other than Harry Kane, England's best striking option. Forget playing Sterling up front, forget Saka, forget Grealish, forget any of the other options. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the best centre forward option for England behind Harry Kane. So why he's not in the squad tonight is absolutely beyond me, but there you go, that's the latest on that. And that about does it for the first episode of in other news, let us know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Heading towards that 4,600 subscriber mark now, so if you could hit that sub button, it would mean a great deal to me. Anyway, that is it for us. Hit that like if you've enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. We'll be live tomorrow morning with more news and information. Maybe we'll have an announcement to talk about. Maybe we won't. Who knows? Who knows what's going to go on with Everton Football Club? We don't know whether it'll be tomorrow, whether it'll be, you know, Friday, whether it'll be at all. Who knows? But let's wait and see. We'll be live with the latest breaking news when it breaks, as always. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit the little notification bell as well, because it keeps you notified for when we upload. So if we do go live with any breaking news, you'll get a notification through on your phone or your tablet saying, you know, we've gone live and to get involved in the live stream. So hit that little bell icon to get involved. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.